What's the most messed up thing a friend has done? This story comes from our community post at AboveAverageAzuin2684. One of my exes would, at the time, constantly tell anyone within earshot of herself and say how her stepdad was leaving weapons just laying around the house. Note that I'm not an American, and where I live, gun laws are pretty strict. Anyways, I was having a chat with a friend, just having a drink, shooting and petting his dog. The dog was a very good dog, by the way. So I'm just talking to him and ask him, "Hey, Mal, Sierra keeps talking about how her stepdad keeps leaving weapons around the house, and like how her little sister Sarah keeps picking them up and stuff. Who do I even talk to about it?" Now, for the record, Mal was a licensed security guard and had worked in the Parliament buildings before, so he knew his stuff. He hands me his phone and says, "The number for the provincial police is on there. Call them and tell them what's going on." So I do, and they say due to the fact that it's not an active scene, aka he's not there right now with the gun shooting them off like a whack job, it's a matter of the city police. So they redirect my call, and I tell the dispatcher the situation, give the address and confirm my number, and off they go. A while later, they call me, and the person on the phone goes, "I'm Sergeant Guy in charge of this investigation. Is this name?" Me, "Yes, speaking." "Sergeant Guy in charge, do you have a few minutes to answer some questions about your report you made about house address?" "Okay, sure." "Okay, so you said in your report that you knew of firearms laying around the house, is that correct?" "Yes." "And have you ever seen said guns around the house?" "No, I've never seen anything there bigger than a Nerf gun." And can you tell me how you found out about these guns if you never saw them?" He's obviously kind of pissed at this point, as I might as well have called in a fake swatting call. Well, my ex has been telling me and a lot of our mutual friends about this situation, and I was talking to my friend about it, and they suggested that I call it in." "I see. This ex, is she your ex-wife?" "No, ex-girlfriend. We have a lot of mutual friends that run in the same circles as we have certain hobbies that we're both a part of." And when did you last hear about this?" "Well, a couple weeks ago, a mutual friend of ours was hosting a party, and she was telling me and a few others about her stepdad leaving guns in the house." "I see. And is the stepdad's name Julian?" "I believe so, yeah." "But you've never seen the guns in question, is that correct?" "Yes, I've never seen the guns there." "Do you know of any reason why Sierra would want to spread such rumors?" "I mean, I think she's had a rough time with her folks, with them kicking her out and such, so that could be a reason." Do you have her address?" "Yeah, it's number 17, Squidhead Drive, Unit 1709. Obviously a fake address for keeping it private." "I see. And just to confirm, you've never seen any kinds of firearms there?" "No." "Have you ever seen anything there that in any way could resemble a firearm?" Do Nerf guns count?" "Are you sure they're Nerf guns?" "Yeah, I saw the bright yellow and the Nerf branding on the side of the toys." "Okay, but other than that, nothing else?" "Nope, nothing at all." "All right, well, thank you for the information here, and just in case we need to ask any other questions, here's the best number to reach you at, local area code 857-5309. "Yeah, that's right. Do you think you might need any other information?" Not at this point. You've given me a pretty good understanding of what's going on with them. We'll go back and have a talk about it with them and have someone else talk to Sierra about this to get her side of the story." "Okay, sounds good. Thank you, and sorry for bothering you about it." All of that did actually happen. Turns out that Sierra was lying through her teeth about the weapons and everything else. She was after a while confirmed arrested, and it turns out that her folks decided to press charges afterwards. With that little story now, Sierra is now unable to find a job or even start hormone therapy due to the medication being a controlled substance, and the likelihood of her ever getting a pardon is about as likely as me waking up tomorrow with a large purple unicorn in my bed that farts out pure 24-karat gold bars and spews out small fluffy kittens. Especially seeing as she still does not think she needs to admit she was wrong about anything she did. So if you guys listening want to be featured in any of our future videos, please head on over to my channel and check out my weekly community posts. At the end of the week, I pick out the best comment and add it to my video. Story 2. My former best friend had separated from my partner who she was living with and was trying to make some extra money because, well, life is expensive. Totally fine, do what you have to do. In fact, I let her live with me at the time rent-free to help save up. Her sister was involved in some sort of explicit waitressing, and my friend got roped into this. It involved a lot of extras that involved acts for amounts of money that she claimed at the time to not participate in. Again, not really a big deal if that is what you want to be doing. Some time passed, she made her money and was saving up a ton. I'd occasionally get funny stories about her shenanigans the next morning over breakfast, and occasionally caution her to take care of herself because she could stay with me as long as she wanted, and being unsafe wasn't worth a bit of cash. We worked together at that time as well for our day job. One night we decided to go out for work, so we wrapped up our shift and changed into our going out clothes. It was exciting for me because I was also in school full time and going out didn't happen often for me. We take the train downtown when she gets a call from her sister and tells me she has to make a stop on her way to the pub. It was sort of on the way, so I agreed and waited in the lobby of this high-rise. About 10 minutes passes and I start to worry, so I start calling her and she evades my question but gets me buzzed up to the apartment. I go upstairs and it's clear that there's some sort of party happening. I knock on the door and there are these guys that answer the door blitzed out of their mind. They immediately try to hand me $300 in cash. I try to push them out of the way and get to my friend. I see that she and her sister are almost completely bare except for their drawers. They're walking around, flirting with these guys. It is obviously a private party. I found out later her sister's backup bailed, so she tried to get my friend to go get her to make a quick buck. I will find out later me joining is also part of the plan. I keep telling the guys no, but they think it is part of the act. They have hired girls and I am a girl and it appears like I am dressed up for them. It was pretty traumatizing for me, but it got to the point where they ripped off my dress. I was humiliated, wandering around this party, terrified, hoping none of them would try to do anything else. Things escalate as it becomes clear my friend has been given some sort of substance by them and is quickly deteriorating. She's locked herself in the bathroom and screams for me by opening the door a crack. This feels like it happened very suddenly. I freak out and try to get all her stuff, me and her, and lock us back in the bathroom. She initially tries to throw up, so I go with that. She had already tried taking a shower for some reason, maybe to keep herself awake, I'm not really sure, but she's soaked. I am certain we have to get out of there, and I deeply resent her for making the choice to wear fake leather pants that night because there's no way in hell to get them back on her. I tried calling my then boyfriend to get us, but he was unavailable. I tried calling almost everyone I knew just to come get us, and the only person available was a newer friend of mine. I knew that by asking her to help that she would probably never want to hang out again, and I wasn't wrong. When I knew she was close, I took my chances with the wolves outside the door and made our escape. I ended up throwing my 140-pound friend sort of over my tiny shoulders, bare and all. I have no idea how I managed. I was still also mostly bare as well, but managed to throw on my coat. Friend comes, drives us back to my place. One of the guys from the party proceeds to stalk me for a while, one of the ones that ripped my clothing off. I asked my former best friend to move out for putting me in that situation. She bought the friend that drove us home that night flowers as a sorry, but never apologized to me. That wasn't the final straw in our relationship, but we don't talk anymore. I didn't call the police because her sister threatened me, knew where I lived, and said she would tell her boss about me and ruin my life if I told. And at the time, I didn't know what to do, so I just got us out of there. In retrospect, I would have done a better thing, but in those situations where you are scared for your life and are in shock, I don't think I ever stopped shaking after my clothing incident. The deep quiver you get in utter terror, you just do the thing. I was out of my body operating it, taking in the threats, knowing the type of person her sister was, and honestly afraid of what she would do to me. I also was not wrong. Party dude stalked me after because her sister told him where I worked, I guess as punishment for leaving. Also, my friend was totally aware of the situation. I have no doubts that it didn't turn out how she planned, but she did make a choice to involve me in that. It all came out in later conversations that her sister was convinced that my look would make them a lot of money. She started asking me if I would do it again with her now that I had seen what it was like, and that was when I asked her to move out. I understand that trauma manifests in different ways, but even if I was in an accident that wasn't my fault and someone else got hurt, I would apologize. I would be sorry they were hurt, and she didn't really ever want to go down the road of apologizing for that. Wow, that is so messed up on so many levels. As a friend, she sucks. Now, if you agree that this was a total nightmare, then please also don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on these crazy stories on my upcoming videos. Now let's go ahead and get back to these stories. Story 3. I'm in high school, junior year I think, and at the time my main social life was with my camp friends from my Jewish camp who lived really far away from me, needed to fly to get there. I wasn't very popular in my school and my camp friends were the most important friends I had. The year before, all of them had come to stay with me for New Year's Eve for a weekend, and we had a great time, which was a huge deal because it took a really long time to get permission from all of our parents and set up the flights, etc. The summer that year, we all went on a 6-week trip to Israel with our camp and had a miserable time. How was your stereotypical awkward, self-conscious teenager? A girl on the trip decided she hated me for the first day on the trip for no reason, said I looked like someone else she hated, and bullied me for the rest of the trip. I was super unpopular and spent the trip trying to fit in completely unsuccessfully. And all of my friends, the one who visited me for New Year's, kind of went along with it. They didn't encourage it, but also didn't try to help me. Being a stupid kid in high school, I was devastated, but still thought my friends were close with me. Fast forward to the next New Year's Eve, which I spent alone with my mom, again, not many friends in high school. My camp friends had told me they were staying in their home states. That night, I saw that they all posted photos to Facebook showing that they had actually flown all the way to my state and were having a huge party with all of the other kids from the summer trip, including the girl who bullied me. The party was 30 minutes away, and not only had I not been invited, they had all lied to me to keep it a secret. It devastated me, and I haven't spoken to them since. It's been over 10 years, and it still stings, even though I grew out of my awkwardness in college and have a great social life now. Story 4. This is going to be a long one, so strap in. I have a family friend, we'll call her Jane, that I grew up with and went to school with from 5th grade through high school. We were off and on about being close friends because she wasn't the greatest at balancing friendships, but at the time of senior year, we were relatively close. At the time, she was dating a Marine, we'll call him John, who was from our town but was living on base in North Carolina. He seemed like an okay guy, but I knew Jane's track record of being manipulative and controlling with her previous boyfriends. She would tell me about how he would get pissed at her for random things, like not checking in every second of the day or not being immediately available to answer phone calls or whatever. I found out later that it was mostly her doing this, but that's a different story. So time passes and it's getting close to graduation and these two get engaged. Everything is fine and dandy, and after we graduate, she moves out to NC and they have a courthouse wedding. Cool. Now, here's where I come into the story. I had started talking to this guy who lived on the same base as Jane and John and had family that lived a couple hours away from there, so I arranged to fly out to NC and stay with Jane so I could see my boyfriend and family. She was excited because it had been months since we had seen each other. I flew out there, and on the first day, we spent most of our time catching up, and I got to know John a little better and further validated that he was a good guy. Everything was fine. On the second day, however, I wake up and John is at work on base, and Jane tells me I'll be home alone with him while she's at work later tonight. That's fine. I like this guy, and we got along well. So John comes home and makes dinner, and he and I have a couple of drinks. We're just being friendly with each other. Nothing weird. Don't get your knickers in a bunch. Then Jane comes home earlier than expected and starts drinking straight from the bottle. I'd never really been around her when she drank, so I didn't know what to expect. An hour passes and we're sitting out in the garage talking about whatever, and all of a sudden, Jane's entire mood changes. She starts berating John, telling him that everyone he knows is terrified of him and so are his parents, and the reason they won't admit it is because they are afraid he'll hurt them. Obviously, this pisses off John, so he calls his mom to try to debunk this insane statement, and Jane freaks out and just starts screaming at all of them. I don't know how to handle the situation, and I'm awkward AF, so I tried my best to act like I wasn't even there. Eventually, Jane goes inside and I try to calm John down. He cools off a bit and dumps what's left of the alcohol out on the ground. I go inside to check on Jane and find that she's locked herself in the bathroom and is calling someone from back home. I figure there's not much I can do, so I go to my own room. John comes in to make sure Jane and I are okay. I tell him I'm fine and that Jane is locked in the bathroom, and he starts asking her to let him in. Jane is screaming at him from the other side of the door, saying all kinds of nonsense about him trying to rough her up if she lets him in, but eventually opens the door. John is trying to calmly diffuse the situation, but I can hear her throwing herself against the door and the walls of this bathroom. The reason I know it was her is because the sound of his voice never moved from behind the door, but hers did. Jane pushes him out of the way and runs out the front door, banging on neighbors' doors to let her in. It's like 2 a.m. at this point, so obviously she's gonna wake someone up. And this is where it gets more interesting. She eventually gets the immediate next-door neighbor to let her in, and they call the police and ambulance. Now, this is a military base, so it wasn't just the county officers who showed up, it was the base officers as well, who are scary as heck. The cops show up, and I'm still at Jane and John's house because I don't really know what to do. So they come in and ask everyone in the house to sit in the living room. They asked me if I would make a statement, and I agreed, but as soon as they try to ask me questions, another officer comes over from next door and says Jane is asking for me. So I walk over with the officer and find her sitting on the floor in absolute hysterics, saying she doesn't want to see John and she doesn't want him to end her and whatever. I told her he's inside and that she and I have to go to the hospital. It takes a few minutes to get her out of the house, and she's still freaking out even when we get into the ambulance. So we get to the hospital and they run a single urine test because she told them she'd had a miscarriage recently, which seemed odd because to my knowledge they should have done a toxicology test, but whatever. They also didn't give her an IV, which I also think should have been done, but again, whatever, I'm not a doctor. Then a second nurse comes in with a gallon-sized bag of medications they took from her house. Among those medications were bipolar medication and antidepressants, neither of which should be mixed with alcohol. She never mentioned any of this otherwise. I would have shut her down drinking immediately. So now I'm stuck at the hospital with her, with no money, no ID, and no way to get back home, and the doctor just said, "We're gonna just let her sleep it off here so you can wait in the waiting area until she sobers up." I had to sit in that hospital for 2 more hours, call the guy I was talking to, and explain the situation to him so he would come pick us up, and then explain to her the next day that I couldn't stay there anymore and needed to be driven 2 hours to my family's house. I heard that type of thing happens a lot to young married Marines. They learned the hard way that a lot of their high school sweethearts aren't really that sweet and just like their paycheck and making things miserable. Story 5. My best friend at the time pulled the school fire alarm. Fire trucks showed up and everything, and it was a false alarm. He blamed it on me, saying that I dared him to do it and he caved in because best friends are supposed to do what their friends ask. We both got in a ton of trouble and it took me a long time to live it down. I asked him why he really pulled the alarm and he said the sign said pull and he was curious to see what would happen if you push the lever instead. He dragged my name in to somehow deflect the blame off of him. My parents and teachers never believed my story. That was over 20 years ago and I'm still salty over it. Frickin' a-hole. Story 6. My best friend and I parted ways for a while and are now back to where we used to be. I got out of the military and he stayed in. He got stationed in Germany and we used to FaceTime once a week. He ended up getting together with this woman who was super controlling. She didn't like the fact that he is also friends with my wife and could talk to her with such ease. Either way, he comes back stateside. I go visit him and he tells me he's planning on marrying her. I tell him it's a horrible idea and I've never seen him so unhappy even after we lost a few good friends in the sandbox. We get into an argument and basically just shake hands and walk away. I had a void in my life as I no longer had a best friend. He called me 2 years ago and told me he's getting a divorce. He flies out to see me in my new home and we end up spending 12 hours catching up over 2 bottles of wild turkey and about 3 packs of cigarettes. In the end, he tells me he should have listened to me and he was sorry. I named my first child after him and now he's getting married again to an amazing woman who respects our relationship and to whom I've grown to love as a sister. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, I'm pretty sure you're also going to enjoy the next one. Why did you nope out of a friendship? Story 2 was crazy. I'll see you in that video, and thank you for watching this one.